Hi, it's Sue Greenwald with Awakened Stories. I'm here today with Deanna Carr with the Mystical Moonlight. Hey, Deanna, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Today we're going to do some Q&A, and today I want to talk about sharks. All right, so
Okay.
we had done a shark video roughly a year ago, and that is
Mhm.
fascinating stuff if you haven't watched that one, because again, what we've been taught, totally different than what we've been taught, right? So we had talked about, we're going to call them mechanical sharks. And when I say mechanical, we're really talking about like androids. Is that more likely, or are we talking more clones?
More Android-like.
Android. Okay, so they're
Mhm.
like maybe machine on the inside and
Mhm.
like biological on the outside. Would that be a good way to say it?
Yeah. Yeah. They're starting to move more into the more clone-like, so it's more fully realistic.
Right.
But there are sharks that are more on the robotic side still.
Okay. All right. So, what we had said in our previous video was essentially natural sharks or biological sharks have mystical qualities, uh,
Mhm.
but they don't usually just go after people and chow them down. They're not like after the humans, if you will. Okay. So, because
Yeah.
we have a fear of sharks now, but the mechanical ones are the ones that are programmed essentially to go to the shores and attack people. It
Yes.
creates fear, keeps people away from the beaches, all sorts of stuff. Is that a
Mhm.
good like kind of summary of that?
Yes.
All right. All right. Who are the ones that have created these kind of sharks?
Well, the governments.
Governments do it.
Yeah. Well, they have the scientists that are into creating them. Now, some of it is for the control. They want the control, but at the same time, they are also trying to expand and test how far their experimentations can go. What can they clone? How can they make something that's robotic look realistic? How can they make something robotic last in water? So they go through these experimentations that lead to these creatures, and they are just like a shark, they look just like it. So an average person wouldn't really know the difference. Um, but they do have little control over it. So they do know where these robotic sharks are. They do have locations on them,
Right.
but they have programmed them to have their own brain in a sense. The problem is that most of these sharks that they've programmed have more of that desire to hunt. It doesn't understand the difference between life and death. I mean, most animals, even if you are, an apex predator, you still understand the life and death cycle. There's just this internal knowing. But these predators that they've created do not understand that. So that is why they kind of go on these killing sprees. They don't understand it. They just are going. Um, so for the sharks that are up on these waters are near the people, now there are sharks that are in the area, but they're not going to just start chomping away. They are looking for food, but they also do have sensors and location, let's say, devices within their eternal body, so they understand what they are hunting. Now their taste buds are in their mouth, so you're still going to, get a little nip, but for the most part, there shouldn't be a full-on attack.
Wow. Okay. So are the governments, so that means more than one. So it's
Yes.
not just US government, it's multiple governments around the world that are
Yes.
all
Well, think
working
about
on.
it this way too. It's a way to use submarine without having submarine. It's a way to collect data without a submarine. It's a way to spy on people without a submarine. They do have ways, especially now, to install camera lenses, to have these in place into these sharks and everything that they can see what the shark's seeing. Now, they might not have full control of it, but they can still see what it's doing. They can still see what it's seeing. They can see where the other subs are. They can see if there are mines underwater.
Interesting. Well, you've answered a big question because my next thing is like, do they direct these sharks or mechanical sharks to specific areas? So that would be a
They'll
yes.
have base programming like you know how they like certain waters, they like certain temperatures, they follow, you know, the magnetic fields within the water itself. So they try to base it off of that. So some of them are able to have like a GPS program instilled in them, so they have a base location of this is where you're going to be located.
Okay.
But other than that, it's not on a remote control. They are a free moving being.
Oh, okay. So you can say, hey, head to Florida or head to Australia, but you don't really control exactly what beach they'll go to or whatever.
Mhm.
Okay, because one of my questions is there's certain areas of the world where shark attacks are very prevalent. Australia has a lot of shark attacks, all right?
Yeah,
South Africa has the great white sharks or the great whites down there. There's a lot
yeah,
of sharks there. You hear along the coastline of Florida, and
yeah.
obviously it's got to be a coastline country or whatever, but do you think they're directing them towards specific beaches?
Oh, of course.
All right.
Listen, you just mentioned Australia and Africa.
Yeah.
They are both heavy on certain minerals and materials within their earth, like within their grounds,
Right.
right? I mean, just think about the opal mining, how much people find within the earth in Australia. What would be on the outskirts? What could you find outside of the water? So if they have people that are afraid to go into the water, if they have people that just die in the water, they are going to stop people from exploring.
Ah,
So so it is a way to control some of the resources. Now, some of you are like, what kind of resources would be on the ground that, you know, people would do that type of thing for? There is actually a movie that specifies exactly what is in the ground. Now, I forget the name of it, but it is a source that is actually more potent than gas. It is more potent and powerful than the copper. It's more powerful than anything. It can, by itself, it could become an atom bomb. So it's a very high potent property. And it's in the crust in certain spots in the ocean. It is a gem-like material, so you can go and harvest it, but to get to it is going to be costly. Not only costly in money, but also in the aspect of you probably will not survive. Um, and that is what they're trying to keep regular people from, especially knowing about.
okay. So certain areas have these shark attacks. To build fear in the people, they'll stay away, and then we'll call it the government can go in and maybe take these
Mhm.
minerals in some fashion
Yes.
secretly.
Mhm.
Interesting. Okay. Plus, they can use these sharks to collect data, spy,
Mhm.
do whatever they want.
Oh, I remember. You remember your favorite movie, The Meg, too?
Yeah, the mag too.
But you remember how they go down to the bottom
Yeah.
and they have this resource?
Yes. Yes. Okay. The Meg too. So for
Even though you
whoever,
hated the movie, I wonder why you hated it. They don't
so
want people to watch it.
yeah, it's a horribly done. Like it actually, the Meg two, both of them, the effects are very good, but the story is the worst you've ever seen, and we just basically, make fun of it the whole time. That's funny. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say I want to go to the beach, but I'm a little bit afraid of sharks, right? So there's always that, you're taking a risk, right? You're not like
Mhm.
most of us don't go out far, but you take a risk, okay? How are we to know if we're safe or not? Like, is there a way? No.
You just, okay, so I'll be honest right now. I still have a fear of the ocean. So, I mean, you know, this happened what when I was like 13, perfectly fine, then boom, fear. So for me, as soon as I can't touch the ground, I'm done. Like just send me back.
Yeah,
Um, and that's because I can't see my feet. I can't see what's under me.
right.
I don't know what's beneath me. So you don't really have a knowing. I mean, you can kind of feel out, do you feel comfortable? Do you feel like you shouldn't be there?
Yeah,
This internal knowing. But other than that, you do not have a way unless you can look down and you have great vision because some beaches are so dark and dirty looking, it is hard to see if there is another shark or being in the water itself.
right.
Now, certain areas like where you're at, the water is crisp clear, so it would be easier for somebody with that type of fear to maneuver the waters because you can see the bottom. Now, it might not be as close as you think, but at least you can see the bottom.
Yeah.
Same thing with like Hawaii, you can still see the bottom, so you have a little less fear. You know if there's a shark, you know if there's a predator. So a lot of the fear is the unknowing. And unfortunately, in certain waters, you do not have any clue what is in there. So it is a risk.
It's true, but they move so fast, like
Oh,
once
yeah.
you see that they're there, it might be too late. But rather than talk about it from fearful, a fearful stance, we're taking a risk, okay, if you go in deep or whatever, but it's very, very unlikely that you'll be harmed by a shark. Very
Yeah.
unlikely. But
Yeah.
I can see what they've done to people by creating this, like, we're afraid. Now, were we afraid 100 years ago or before the movie Jaws came out? Maybe a little, but it wasn't as big of a thing, I don't
Yeah.
think.
Well, what's interesting, so I saw this, it was like a TikTok on, what the the most harm to humans was like what animal killed the most humans throughout the year.
Yeah,
And sharks were actually like at the bottom.
yeah,
Like we are so afraid of sharks, but in reality, the amount of people that die from sharks is like nothing. I
yeah.
think more people died from rhinos than from sharks. Um, and the biggest stat, do you want to know the worst animal that kills humans?
Yeah.
Can you take a guess?
I was going to say dogs, but I don't know.
Humans.
Oh, well, duh. Okay. Okay.
Humans kill the most humans,
Yeah.
but the second runner up is mosquitoes.
Mosquitoes.
Yeah.
Oh,
But you don't see us, I mean, we don't like mosquitoes. We have stuff, but you don't see us, mosquito,
yeah.
run for your life.
Yeah.
Like mosquitoes kill more than sharks.
Yeah. We have been taught, I think, this fear of sharks. Okay. Like for reasons you talked about, like you can't see through the water or whatever. But look at on the Discovery Channel or whatever that is, Animal Channel, we've got Shark Week every year. I
Hmm.
assume they still do that. So they have
Oh
all
yeah,
these
I
like
watch it.
beautifully photographed but graphic shark movies all week long. We had the
Yeah.
book and the movie Jaws, which
Hmm.
was, again, that was a big deal. That was probably what, the 70s? Okay, so that caused a huge ruckus in the shark community. Like the fishermen are killing the sharks like I forgot what the stats were, but it's shocking how many they're killing of sharks. And you know, I think they're needed out in the ocean. So this is not a good thing. You know, we
They
are,
are moving.
yeah, we're affecting the ecology again. So not good.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is for those that are watching this, I'd say be careful, but don't be fearful because that takes the fun out of everything. You know, and usually if you're well tuned in, you have like a red flag feeling. You get a sense that something's wrong, and then you can take action. If there's danger, your body will pick that up, right?
Yeah.
And
Your body, you'll get goosebumps. You'll just get this get the F out of here now.
yeah,
And I've had that plenty of times.
yeah,
And it doesn't even have to just be like shark oriented. That could be anywhere. You
yeah,
just
yeah,
have this internal feeling, get out now.
Yep.
drop what you're doing and follow that instinct because you don't know where that's going to lead you.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, you do have to kind of just go on your instincts. And like I said, I am afraid of the ocean still. I mean, I still go to the beach every week. I mean, I take my kids there. Now I do get nervous with my kids, so I mean, they have life jackets. We have, tubes and everything. And if you're like me and you're afraid, I always have a tube with me. So that way, if something does happen, I know I at least have some sort of
Yeah.
backup just
Yeah.
to help support me versus being by myself.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other thing is, a lot of people are, afraid and then they don't want to look silly with inner tubes or anything. One, it's super fun going in the waves with inner tubes,
Yeah.
but two, it is a way to help support yourself in a time of need if ever needed.
Right.
So
Right.
just think ahead, but you're
Yeah.
good. Have
Yeah.
fun.
Well, again, I don't want to just talk about this topic and have people be afraid. Like, be cautious. But that red flag feeling or that has saved me so many times. I've had an incident a few weeks ago. I was I pulled into my parking lot. I knew something was wrong immediately. It was I knew immediately. Okay. So I was tuned in. But I think I told my manatee story. I was in the ocean last year. It was August 2024, and a woman on the shore says, "Shark." And I'm like, "What?" She goes, "Shark." Now, if there's a shark, you damn well better start pointing and screaming, okay? But I turn around and there is a giant black shadow in the water 5 feet from me. Now, most people, and when you're afraid, you go into that adrenaline and you get all like, it's like time slows down and all that. I didn't actually do that. I didn't have any fear whatsoever, which is odd in itself. So I looked at that shadow and I looked forward. I'm like, there's no way I'm making it in. I looked at it again and I'm like, because I turned my back to it. Okay. And then I'm like, that's a manatee. And I said, that's a manatee. Before I even really knew if it was, I just had a knowing. And then I turned around and watched it, and it was indeed a manatee. But again, I had no fear, which is bizarre, right?
Mhm.
Actually, I
Yeah.
just love telling this story because it was cool. But it snuck up on me without me knowing because I like to float in the ocean.
Mhm.
And yeah, so that was interesting, but no fear for me whatsoever,
Yeah.
right?
That's a good sign that it's not going to harm you because if it was, you would have that internal like get out now.
Yeah,
Um, and
yeah,
that's usually relevant with things that have a malicious intent.
yes, yeah. So, and I'm not saying everybody that's ever bitten by a shark has ignored that, but when you tune into that red flag feeling or that feeling of danger, you'll save yourself a lot of trouble down the road. So.
Yes,
All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for your help. I appreciate it, Deanna.
of course.
Bye bye.
Bye.